The 27-year-old woman, who lost her husband and newborn baby on the same day, thought she had no reason left to live. Until that night, when the desperate Viking father at her door with a crying baby in his arms. "My wife died," said the man, with tears that a warrior should never show. "But my son must live." The decision she made in that moment would change both their destinies forever. In the small village of Northwick on England's northern coast, on the coldest winter night of 1352, Eleanor's life shattered in a single day. This 27-year-old young woman began feeling labor pains with the first light of morning. Thomas. She had called to her husband. "The baby is coming." Thomas was one of the village's best carpenters. At 30 years old, strongly built with a warm smile, he was madly in love with Eleanor and waiting excitedly to bring their baby into the world. "I'm calling midwife Margaret right away." He had rushed out of the house, but that morning fate had made very cruel plans. As Thomas ran toward the village center, he encountered a sudden raid by Viking raiders. These warriors from the northern seas had come to plunder coastal villages. When midwife Margaret arrived at Eleanor's house, the woman's condition was serious. "The birth was very difficult, Eleanor, my girl," said the old woman in a worried voice. "The baby is turned. This is very dangerous." After hours of painful labor, the baby was finally born. But he didn't cry out. He didn't breathe. He was a small boy and he was stillborn. "No," Eleanor screamed, pressing the baby to her chest. "No, no, no!" Margaret shook her head with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, child. The baby was gone before he came." Eleanor's screams echoed through the walls of the house. Her chest was filled with milk, but she had no baby to nurse. Her heart was broken, but the pain was just beginning. Just then neighbor Sarah burst into the house, breathless. "Eleanor!" she shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thomas was by the Vikings." The words got stuck in Sarah's throat. There was no need to say it. Eleanor understood that her husband was gone too. That day, Eleanor lost both her husband and her baby. On the same day, at the same hours, the woman's soul sank into such deep pain that she couldn't speak. She just sat, looking at the dead baby in her lap, with tears silently flowing from her eyes. The next day, a double funeral was held in the village square. Thomas's body had been recovered from the Viking attack. The small baby was also buried beside his father. "May God take their souls," said the priest, but Eleanor wasn't listening. She was now an empty shell. She had no reason left to live. When she returned home after the funeral, the house was terribly silent. The cradle Thomas had been working on stood unfinished. The baby's small clothes were carefully folded, waiting ready. Eleanor felt the milk leaking from her chest. Her body was preparing to feed a baby that didn't exist. This pain was unbearable, both physically and spiritually. "My God," she whispered in the dark house. "Why didn't you take me too?" For the next 3 days, Eleanor didn't leave her house. She didn't eat, didn't drink water, didn't speak. She just lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Neighbors brought food, but she didn't touch any of it. On the evening of the 4th day, midwife Margaret came to visit. "Eleanor, child," she said gently, "I know this is very hard, but you must continue to live. The milk in your chest could cause infection. You need to express it. Let it happen," Eleanor said in a ghostly voice. "I want to die." "Dying is easy, living is hard," said Margaret. "But you're a strong woman." "Thomas would know that." Eleanor didn't answer. Margaret stayed for the milk expression process, but Eleanor's soul was still lost in darkness. At night, Eleanor imagined hearing her baby crying. She would run, but the cradle was empty. She heard her husband's voice, but no one was looking for him. "I'm going mad," she whispered in the darkness. "I'm losing my mind." When the 7th night came, Eleanor had completely given up. She had decided life had no meaning, but fate had prepared a very different plan for her. At the same time, 30 miles from the coast in the Viking camp, Bjorn Ravnsson was living his own hell. This 35-year-old Viking chief was a powerful, feared warrior. At 2 meters tall, with his red beard and glacier blue eyes, he had become legendary on battlefields. But now, that powerful warrior was kneeling beside his 5-day-old baby, crying desperately. "Magnus, my son," he whispered, rocking the baby in his arms. "Please don't cry, please." Bjorn's wife Astrid had died from blood loss while bringing the baby into the world. In her last breath, she had looked at her husband and said, "Protect our son." Then her eyes had closed. Baby Magnus had been born healthy, but without mother's milk he was rapidly weakening. There was no nursing woman in the Viking camp. All young women were either pregnant or too young to have given birth. "Bjorn," said old shaman woman Freya, the camp's wise woman, "the baby needs mother's milk. Animal milk will kill him. In a few days—" "Don't say it," Bjorn shouted. "We must find a way." They sent men from the camp, searched nearby villages, but couldn't find a nursing woman. Baby Magnus was getting weaker with each passing hour. On the 6th day, the baby had even stopped crying. He just lay there, his small chest barely rising and falling. Bjorn's battle companions were seeing their chief like this for the first time. That powerful man was now a father crying desperately. "If I lose my son," Bjorn said, with the break in his voice, "I won't want to live." That night Shaman Freya approached Bjorn. "There's a way," she said in a low voice, "but it's very risky." "I'll do anything," Bjorn said immediately. "In the English villages there may be women who have recently given birth, but that's enemy territory. They could kill you." Bjorn looked at his baby. Magnus's small lips were cracked, his skin pale. "I'm preparing," Bjorn said decisively. "I'm going tonight." "Alone?" asked his battle companion Eric. "Yes, a group of Vikings will frighten the English. But alone, a desperate father. Maybe they'll show mercy." Freya gave Bjorn a bottle with some goat's milk. "This will only help him last a few hours," she said. "If you can't return by morning—" Bjorn nodded. He didn't wear his armor. He left his sword. He only took a small knife. He wrapped Magnus in soft furs and tied him to his chest. "My son," he whispered in the baby's ear, "I will save you. I swear it." In the darkness of night, Bjorn set out on his horse. The cold wind was hitting his face, but he didn't care. His only thought was his son. After a 2-hour journey, he arrived at Northwick village. The village was silent. People were hiding in their homes out of fear of Vikings. Bjorn left his horse at the village entrance and started walking. Baby Magnus was now very weak. His breathing was becoming difficult. "Please gods," Bjorn prayed. "Odin, Thor, Freya, send someone who will save my son." He went around a few houses in the village. Some doors didn't open. Some had old people. But there was no young nursing woman. Despair was beginning to grip Bjorn. Maybe it was too late. Maybe he couldn't save his son. But just then he saw light from a small house at the edge of the village. He headed there and knocked on the door. Bjorn and Eleanor traveled toward the Viking camp on horseback. Magnus was sleeping, wrapped in Eleanor's lap. The woman fed him every time the baby woke up. During the journey, Bjorn told Eleanor about Viking culture. "Our people are different," he said. "The English think we're savages, but we just have different values. Strength, honor, family, these are everything to us. What do your women do?" Eleanor asked curiously. "Viking women are strong," Bjorn said proudly. "They can fight, trade, make decisions. We even have female warriors we call shield maidens." Eleanor was surprised. In English society, women were very limited. When they arrived at the camp, the Vikings greeted them with astonishment. Bjorn had come with an English woman. "Who is this woman?" asked Eric, Bjorn's battle brother. This is Eleanor, Bjorn said loudly to the entire camp. She is Magnus's life-giver. She saved my son from death. We will protect her like a queen. From the camp, old shaman Freya stepped forward. She looked at Eleanor for a long time. You carry deep pain, Freya said. But you also have a strong spirit. I lost my baby, Eleanor said quietly. But now I'm saving another baby, Freya nodded. The gods sent you here for a reason. Welcome, Eleanor. Bjorn had prepared a special tent for Eleanor. Inside was filled with furs, blankets, and a warm hearth. You can stay here, Bjorn said. I'll bring Magnus here. You feed, you rest. The first days were difficult. Eleanor was in a foreign culture among foreign people. But Magnus connected her. Every day she nursed the baby, and Magnus got a bit stronger every day. Bjorn was very respectful to Eleanor. He never treated her badly, never forced her. He was just a grateful father. A week later, Magnus had completely recovered. He was starting to gain weight, smiling, looking around. You've worked a miracle, Bjorn said to Eleanor one day. My son is very strong now. Just mother's milk, Eleanor said humbly. Every baby needs it. No, Bjorn said seriously. You didn't just give milk. You gave love. Magnus is happy with you. Eleanor looked at the baby. Indeed, Magnus smiled when he saw her. He recognized her voice. I'm happy with him too, Eleanor said quietly. For the first time after 7 days, she really felt happy. Over time, Eleanor became part of the camp. Viking women taught her to cook, taught her the language, taught her culture. Eleanor also taught them English medicine. A strange bond also began to form between Bjorn and Eleanor. Both had lost their spouses. Both were alone. But now they were together because of Magnus. One night Bjorn came to Eleanor's tent. Magnus is sleeping, he said. Can I talk with you? Of course, Eleanor said. They both sat by the hearth. I want to tell you something, Bjorn said. Since you came here, my life has changed. Not just for Magnus, but for me too. What do you mean? Eleanor asked. You taught me to live again, Bjorn said. After Astrid died, I was just trying to survive. But you came and everything changed. Eleanor's heart raced. Bjorn, I know, Bjorn said immediately. It's too soon, and I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know. You're a very special woman, Eleanor. Eleanor was surprised. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Even Thomas hadn't been this candid. I don't know what to say, Eleanor said. You don't need to say anything, Bjorn said. Just stay here. For Magnus, and maybe a little for me too. That night Eleanor couldn't sleep for a long time in her tent. Bjorn's words kept spinning in her head. This Viking warrior was one of the people who killed her husband. But at the same time, he was kind, honest, and a good father. As months passed, Eleanor's bond with the camp deepened. Magnus was now 4 months old and a very healthy baby. When he laughed, the whole camp was happy. When he saw Eleanor, he opened his arms. Mama, he had murmured one day. His first word, Eleanor's eyes had filled. No, little one, she had whispered. I'm not your mother. I'm just someone who feeds you. But Bjorn had heard. You are his mother, he had said decisively. Maybe you didn't give birth to him, but you kept him alive. That makes you a mother. Eleanor was now confused. She loved Magnus like her own child. But was this right? Was she trying to take Astrid's place? One day Shaman Freya called Eleanor to her tent. Sit, child, the old woman said. I must talk with you. Eleanor sat, waiting curiously. You're fighting a war, Freya said. Within yourself. You love Magnus, but you feel guilty. You feel something toward Bjorn, but you don't allow it. How do you know? Eleanor asked in surprise. I'm old, Freya said, smiling, and I can read souls. Listen, Eleanor, the dead don't want us to be unhappy. Would your husband Thomas want you to be unhappy? No, Eleanor said, tears beginning to pool in her eyes. He would want me to be happy. Then why are you punishing yourself? Magnus isn't your son, but does that change the fact that you'll love him? Bjorn isn't your husband, but does that change the fact that you feel something toward him? But Vikings killed my husband, Eleanor said painfully. Yes, Freya said. But did Bjorn kill him? No, war killed him. Hate killed him. But not Bjorn. He's just a man trying to survive. Eleanor was silent for a long time. Freya's words were true. Blaming Bjorn would be easy, but it wouldn't be fair. What should I do? Eleanor asked. Listen to your heart, Freya said. The gods brought you here for a reason. Maybe to save Magnus. Maybe to save Bjorn. Maybe to save yourself. That evening Eleanor thought long and hard to herself. She really did feel something toward Bjorn. His love for Magnus, his honorable behavior, his strength and kindness. But could she admit it? 2 days later there was a big celebration in the camp. They had returned from a successful hunt, and everyone was happy. Fires were lit, food cooked, songs sung. Bjorn came to Eleanor's side, holding Magnus in his lap. "Will you dance?" he asked. Eleanor was surprised. I don't know Viking dancing." "I'll teach you," Bjorn said, smiling. They left Magnus with Freya and began dancing by the fire. Viking music was wild but beautiful. Bjorn held Eleanor gently, and they slowly turned. Eleanor looked into Bjorn's eyes. In those glacier-blue eyes there was honesty, strength, and love. "Bjorn," Eleanor said quietly, "I need to tell you something." "I'm listening," Bjorn said. I'm happy here," Eleanor said. "At first it was difficult, but now this place is like my home. Magnus is like my son." "And you, and me?" Bjorn asked, his heart beating fast. You're a good man, Bjorn," Eleanor said. "And I can't help thinking about you." Bjorn's face lit up. "Really?" "Yes," Eleanor said. "But I'm still afraid." "Isn't it too fast? It's only been months since I lost Thomas." "There's no timeline for love," Bjorn said gently. "When your heart is ready, it's ready." "What about your Astrid?" Eleanor asked. "I'll always love Astrid," Bjorn said honestly. "She was Magnus's mother, and I honor her. But she's gone, and life goes on. Astrid would want me to be happy. Thomas would want you to be happy too." Eleanor nodded. Bjorn was right. "Then maybe we can give it a chance," Eleanor said quietly. Bjorn smiled. But he didn't force Eleanor, didn't kiss her, didn't hug her. He just held her hand. "Step by step," he said. "We won't rush. I promised you I'll protect you, and that promise includes not forcing you." Eleanor was lying motionless in her dark house. It was the 7th night, and she had completely given up. But just then she heard an urgent knocking at the door. At first she ignored it. Whoever it was, she didn't want to talk to them. But the knocking repeated. This time more urgent, more desperate. "Please!" A man's voice was heard from outside. "Please open the door. I need help!" Eleanor got up, her feet heavy. She went to the door and opened it. The sight she saw shocked her. A huge, red-bearded Viking warrior stood there. But he was unarmed, and in his arms was a tiny baby wrapped in furs. You're a Viking," Eleanor said, stepping back. "Yes," Bjorn said, the desperation in his voice clearly felt. "But I didn't come to harm you. My son is dying." Bjorn showed the baby to Eleanor. Magnus's skin was as pale as ash. His eyes were half closed. "He needs mother's milk," Bjorn said, and the break in his voice was a weakness a warrior should never show. My wife died. In childbirth. For 6 days the baby has had nothing. Please." Eleanor looked at the baby, and in that moment, something in her heart moved. The milk in her chest began to ache, as if responding to the baby's call. Did you come to kill me?" Eleanor asked, still suspicious. "No," Bjorn said immediately. "No, I swear, just save my son. I'll give you anything you want. Gold, silver, everything. Just save my son." Eleanor's mind was in turmoil. This man was a Viking. Vikings were the enemies who killed her husband. But this baby, this innocent dying baby, how did I find you? Bjorn said desperately. Your neighbor told me that you had just given birth. Please. There's no time left. Eleanor looked at the baby again. Magnus's breath was very weak. In a few hours he would die, and in that moment Eleanor made a decision. Maybe it wasn't logical, maybe it was emotional. But as a mother who had lost her own baby, she couldn't let another baby die. Come inside, she said quietly. Bjorn couldn't believe it. Really? Quick, the baby is freezing, Eleanor said, opening the door all the way. Bjorn entered. Eleanor sat in the chair by the hearth and extended her arms. Give him to me, she said. Bjorn carefully placed the baby in Eleanor's arms. In that moment, the two people's hands touched and a strange energy passed between them. Eleanor took Magnus in her lap. The baby was very light, very weak. His eyes opened and looked at Eleanor. Poor thing, Eleanor whispered, tears beginning to pool in her eyes. Poor little thing. She immediately opened her chest and began nursing the baby. Magnus didn't nurse at first. He was too weak. Come on, little warrior, Eleanor said gently. Nurse, live, please live. Then, like a miracle, the baby began to nurse. Weakly, but he began to nurse. Bjorn, watching this scene, fell to his knees and began to cry. That powerful Viking warrior, seeing that his son would survive, had all his emotional walls collapse. Thank you, Bjorn said, with the break in his voice. Thank you. You saved my son. Eleanor was looking at the baby. For the first time in 7 days, she felt warmth in her heart. This baby wasn't hers, but she was feeding him. She was keeping him alive. How long has he been without mother's milk? Eleanor asked. 6 days, Bjorn said. Since my wife died. 6 days. Eleanor shook her head. It's a miracle he's still alive. Magnus continued nursing. With each sip he was getting a bit stronger. His skin was slowly beginning to regain color. Bjorn stood up and looked at Eleanor. For the first time he really looked. The woman had deep pain in her face. Her eyes were red, her face pale. You also experienced loss, Bjorn said quietly. Eleanor raised her head and looked at the Viking. My husband, she said quietly, was killed by your men. 7 days ago. Bjorn's face went rigid. I'm so sorry. And my baby, Eleanor continued, tears beginning to stream down her cheeks, was stillborn. The same day. Bjorn staggered backward. God, he whispered. What we did? Yes, Eleanor said in a bitter voice. Your men took everything from me, but your son has no fault in this. He's just a baby. Two people looked at each other with deep pain and loss. Both had lost their spouses. Both were left alone. Magnus continued nursing. He was stronger now. His small hands grasped Eleanor's finger. How long can he stay? Bjorn asked. How long can you nurse him? Eleanor thought. Babies need frequent feeding, she said. Every 2 to 3 hours. If you take him now, he'll die by morning. Bjorn's heart tightened. Then, can I stay here? Just tonight. We'll leave early in the morning. Eleanor hesitated. This man was a Viking, but at the same time, he was a desperate father. And Eleanor, who had lost her own baby, understood another father's pain. You can stay, she said finally, but unarmed. And by the hearth? Thank you, Bjorn said sincerely. I swear I won't let any harm come to you. That night, a strange arrangement formed. Eleanor nursed Magnus. Bjorn waited by the hearth. Every 2 hours the baby woke up and Eleanor fed him. At midnight, while Magnus was sleeping, Bjorn spoke quietly. My name is Bjorn, he said. Bjorn Ravenson. My son's name is Magnus. Eleanor, the woman said simply. Eleanor, Bjorn repeated. What you did today, you saved my life. You saved my son's life. I only did it for a baby, Eleanor said. Not for you. I know, Bjorn said. And that makes you even more honorable. You showed mercy even to your enemy. Eleanor didn't answer, but something was changing inside her. This Viking, despite being an enemy, seemed sincere. When morning came, Magnus was much better. He nursed, slept, even made some sounds. "We must go," Bjorn said, but there was hesitation in his voice. "Yes," Eleanor said, but she didn't want to give the baby back. Bjorn took Magnus and looked at Eleanor. Does this have to be the last time?" he asked. Eleanor was surprised. "What do you mean?" "Magnus still needs mother's milk," Bjorn said. "For a month. There's no nursing woman in our camp. If I take him, in a few days we'll be back in the same situation." Eleanor's heart raced. "What are you suggesting?" "Come with me," Bjorn said. "To our camp. Nurse Magnus, save him. No harm will come to you, I swear." "To a Viking camp?" Eleanor couldn't believe it. "Are you crazy?" "Maybe," Bjorn said. "But there's no other choice. If you stay here, you'll live alone and in pain. If you come with me, at least you'll have a purpose. You'll save a baby." Eleanor's mind was in turmoil. Was this madness? But at the same time, staying in this village was like death to her too. "I need to think," she said. "Okay," Bjorn said. "But please think fast. Magnus doesn't have much time." Bjorn turned to leave, but Eleanor's voice stopped him. "Wait." Bjorn turned. Eleanor looked at Magnus. That little baby had awakened something in her heart. The will to live. "A purpose. I'll come," Eleanor said, "but with one condition." "Anything," Bjorn said immediately. "You'll protect me. Everyone in your camp will respect me. Otherwise I'll return immediately." "I swear," Bjorn said, putting his hand on his heart. "You are Magnus's life-giver. We'll protect you like a queen." And so Eleanor made the riskiest decision of her life. She decided to go to a Viking camp. The following months were a slow but beautiful period of closeness for Eleanor and Bjorn. Magnus at the center, the little angel bringing them together. Eleanor was now truly like a mother. She fed Magnus, put him to sleep, played with him. The baby now called her Mama and didn't want to be separated from Eleanor for even a moment. Bjorn was also a perfect father. He played with Magnus, told him stories, made him laugh, but at the same time he was very respectful to Eleanor. One day, Eleanor found something among Bjorn's belongings. A portrait of Astrid. She was a beautiful, blonde-haired woman. "Do you still miss her?" Eleanor asked. "Every day," Bjorn said honestly. "But that doesn't stop me from loving you." "The heart can love more than one person, Eleanor." This honesty had impressed Eleanor. Bjorn wasn't hiding, wasn't lying. 6 months later, Magnus was approaching 1 year old. He was a strong, healthy, happy baby. Eleanor was now giving him solid foods, but was still continuing to nurse. "Soon he'll be weaned," Freya said one day. "What will you do then, Eleanor? Will you stay here?" Eleanor thought. She had been afraid to ask herself this question. That night, Bjorn and Eleanor talked for a long time after Magnus fell asleep. "Eleanor," Bjorn said, "I'm going to ask you a question. And please be honest." "Ask," Eleanor said. "Do you want to be with me? Not just for Magnus, but for myself. Do you want to be my wife?" Eleanor's heart began to beat fast. Was this a marriage proposal? "Bjorn, Listen," Bjorn said, holding Eleanor's hand. "I know it's too fast. I know we come from different worlds, but Magnus is our son, and I love you, Eleanor. Not from the first moment I saw you, but over time. As I got to know you, I fell in love with you." Eleanor's eyes filled. "I love you too, Bjorn," she said. "And yes, I want to be with you. I want to be Magnus's mother. I want to be your wife." Bjorn embraced Eleanor, and that night, for the first time, they truly kissed. 2 weeks later, they married according to Viking ceremony. The whole camp celebrated. Eleanor was now not just Magnus's mother, but Bjorn's wife. A year later, Eleanor became pregnant. with Bjorn's child. This time the birth was very different. Freya was there, Bjorn was there, and Magnus was even there. A healthy baby girl was born. They named her Astrid in honor of Bjorn's first wife. Astrid would be proud, Freya said. You didn't take her place, Eleanor. You just continued the story. Magnus was now 2 years old and loved his little sister very much. He called Eleanor Mama and Bjorn Papa. One day Magnus asked Eleanor this, Mama, where was I born? Eleanor thought. It was time to tell Magnus the truth. You were born in a very special place, Eleanor said. Your first mother Astrid went to heaven while bringing you into the world, but she loved you very much. Then your father brought you to me, and I fed you. Now you're my son. Do I have 2 mothers? Magnus asked innocently. Yes, Eleanor said, smiling. One is protecting you in heaven, one is loving you here. Magnus accepted this and hugged Eleanor. I love you, Mama. I love you too, son, Eleanor said with tears. 2 years later, Eleanor and Bjorn had 3 children, Magnus, Astrid, and newborn Eric. They were all healthy, happy children. Eleanor was now one of the most respected women in the camp. With her healing, her wisdom, she was loved by everyone. Bjorn, as chief, governed justly. And thanks to Eleanor, he managed to make a peace treaty with the English. One day, Eleanor visited her old village of Northwick. She left flowers at Thomas's and the babies' graves. Thank you, she whispered, for loving me. But now I must go. I have a new family, and they're waiting for me.